Pashchatya Deshatarini. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 24, Text 14. Pitra Dishtaha Praja Sarge Tapase Adnavam Avishan Dashavarsha Sahasrani Tapasarcham Tapaspatim. Translation. I cannot read the translation because the video is covering it. When all these prachetas were ordered by their father to marry and beget children, they all entered the ocean and practiced austerities and penances for 10,000 years. Thus they worshipped the master of all austerity, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Sometimes great sages and ascetics enter the Himalaya mountains in order to find a seclusion from the turmoil of the world. It appears, however, that all the prachetas, the sons of Prachina Bari, entered the depths of the ocean to perform austerity in a secluded place. Since they performed austerities for 10,000 years, this incident took place in the Satya Yuga when people used to live for 100,000 years. It is also significant that by their austerity, they worship the master of austerity, Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one wants to perform austerities and penances in order to attain the supreme goal, one must attain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one achieves the favor of the Supreme Lord, it is to be understood that he has finished all kinds of austerities and penances and has attained efficiency in their execution. On the other hand, if one does not attain the perfect stage of devotional service, all austerities and penances actually have no meaning. For without the Supreme Lord, no one can attain the highest results derived from performing them. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Sri Krishna is the master of all penances and sacrifices. Bhoktaram Yajñatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Thus, the desired result of performing austerities may be derived from Lord Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated, Aho bhato shvapachoto ghariyan yajjikhvagare vartate nama tubhyam te pusta puste jahuvuhu sashnurarya brahma nuchur nama grinanti yete. Even if a person is born in a family of Chandalas, the lowest birth one can get in human society is glorious if he chants the holy names of the Lord. For it is to be understood that by such chanting, a devotee definitely proves that he underwent all kinds of austerities in his previous life. By the grace of Lord Chaitanya, one who chants the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, attains the highest perfectional stage which had previously been attained by people who entered the ocean and executed austerities for 10,000 years. In this age of Kali, if a person does not take advantage of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, which is offered as a great concession to the fallen human beings of this age, it is to be understood that he is very much bewildered by the illusory energy of the Lord. Om Tat Sat Om Ajnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Here we have a wonderful, great story of the descendants of Dhruva Maharaj, King Prachina Bari, who has got so many sons. I think these are 10 sons called Prachetas, and they have known to be glorious devotees. And you will see there are some similarities in the type of thing that happens to them and Dhruva Maharaj also. We will discuss that. But the point here is that they were ordered by their father to get married and have progeny. So in order to prepare for Grihastha life, they went and performed these austerities. 10,000 years in the water, they meditated on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So you can imagine, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead did come and give them darshan, you can imagine what it means to see the Lord. And number two, you can imagine what people are willing to do to get to see the Lord, or get to have darshan of the Lord, or take instructions from the Lord, or please the Lord. The desire to please the Lord, the desire to do what is supposed to be done as per the instructions of the Lord so that He may be pleased, is the beginning of a God-conscious life. If a person is God-conscious, if he is religious, he recognizes God and he starts with following God's instructions, especially in the matter of living in this material world, wherein there is a mix of our material requirements and our spiritual requirements and a devotional perspective or an aim. So these things are all together. So we can't so easily decide what to do because there are various factors involved. We have to understand who we are. We have to understand who is God. We have to understand where we are in the material world and how it operates. And then we understand the need definitely of having God, God's advice, His representatives' advice, everything. Because we don't have sambandha gyan, knowledge of relationship with yourself and with the Supreme Lord and with this world, we take things very lightly. And we don't even take it up at all sometimes. And we may be having a totally godless society, wherein we assume the responsibility for making our own laws and floating it and relativizing everything. The relativizing of the absolute truth is the problem in the material world. So, if you do not understand, you will not be able to understand why they are paying so much value and to whom are they worshipping. Why do they do austerities for 10,000 years? They are mad or what? Get up and go and enjoy. That's what today's instruction will be. With the little life you have, get up and go and enjoy. So the other day I was calculating with you that 10,000 years, Prabhupada says the lifespan here is 1 lakh years. Out of 1 lakh years, if you mean 100,000 years, out of that 10,000 years is 1/10 of your lifetime. 1/10 of your lifetime today means you're living for 100 years. Let's say it's 10 years of austerity and penance for producing a Krishna conscious child. Can you see the equivalent of it? 10 years of austerities and penance is equivalent to 10,000 years of penance in Satyuga, which lasted for 100,000 years. So do we do that? Do we actually take a grihastha life? I'm supposed to enter a brahmachari, goes and does 10,000 years of austerities and penance. 10 years of austerities and penance. We may not. Sometimes we will say that, okay, 10 years I joined the ashram, I remained a brahmachari, and now I feel good. Nice. I followed some austerity, some penance. You can see how if you map it or if you actually put it on top, what is the equivalent in Kali Yuga? What is offered to you by Prabhupada as this thing? If you grow up properly in a family which sends you to the Gurukul and takes care of all this, is fine. Mostly we are not. And only for those type of people is the 10,000 years penance or the 10 years this thing equivalent. We may not be, at least we must spend some time, 10 years in the brahmachari ashram, getting trained. At least the parents should be very interested in sending my son to the brahmachari ashram. But what we would rather be doing is we would send them to the university, to the school, and they will pick up all sorts of stuff there. And then we have to, because of the social status which we want to keep, and because of the value that we have towards Krishna consciousness, and we have to balance the value with the external world because we live in the external world, and also because our society as ISKCON is not able to provide that particular type of a situation and training, many things happen in our grahasthas' minds. And nobody is to be blamed for it, but definitely we have to take responsibility as the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to provide that ambience, to provide that training, provide that facility, and provide that open, free choice for all of the youngsters to be able to follow this path of Krishna consciousness. So number one, we will see that we are still to go some way in terms of making arrangements. That is one thing. Number two, Prabhupada is explaining here the equivalent of that in this day and age is to chant the holy name of the Lord. So you can understand how important it is to chant the holy name of the Lord. It substitutes for so many amazing things that you need to be doing to lead a civilized human life, especially if you're interested in achieving the goal of life. So chanting the holy name of the Lord, if a person does for at least 10 years rigorously, chanting 16 rounds a day, getting up in the morning for Mangalarati, being under the authority of somebody, executing devotional services, then at the end of it, he may know how to remain Krishna conscious. He may know what is the value of Krishna consciousness. And if he enters Grahastha Ashrama, he will not be bewildered and carried away and swept away. He will know how to maintain himself in Grahastha life and keep Krishna as a central focus. And so also, if he gets a wife who is trained similarly in a household, how to look after the house, how to keep up, how to cook, how to offer, how to keep the DD's place together, how to actually look after the husband and the children, etc. If she's been trained in everything, she will be able to complement. I'm saying these things because people will be wondering, what? We should also be learning how to get a job, how to do this, how to do that, and everything. But that's where the problem comes. Making the necessary facilities, making the goal of life fixed, and making people understand that it is not necessary to do certain things if we want to achieve the goal of life. Even for men, we are saying now very much that if you want to go ahead and work in the outside world and make money and follow a different path, pravritimcha nivritimcha janana vidurasura. The asuras are known to be persons who don't know what is pravriti marg and nivriti marg. Pravriti marg means is the path of sense enjoyment. Nivriti marg means the paths of renunciation, detachment, and moving towards Krishna consciousness. So devotees have all generally trained to follow the nivriti marg. And maybe they'll do here and there a little bit, but they are basically on the path of nivriti marg. They know deep inside, they're wired up. I shouldn't be doing certain types of things. I don't want to do these things. I must do this. So the path of nivriti marg should be encouraged. Some austerity should be encouraged. Some penances should be encouraged. Some withdrawal from sense gratification should be encouraged. All this means no freedom, no free will exercise as and when you want without authority. But there is somebody there telling you, don't do this, do like this. If you do not like that, and if you are, feeling that my freedom is curtailed, my free speech is curtailed, and I want to be free, then comes the problem. Right? So these two margas, a civilized human being will follow the nivriti marga. That's what a human being is supposed to do. Pravritti marga will make you an animal as per the Vedic scripture. If you simply go with unbridled sense gratification in the human form of life, it's a complete waste of the human form of life, and you will not get anything at the end of life. This is the great instruction of Rishabhadeva to his sons. Tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shuddhayet brahmasaukyam tvanantam. Right? Don't live like cats and dogs. He says, Tapo divyam, perform austerities, divine austerity, shuddhayet, to actually purify yourself, brahmasaukyam tvanantam, and achieve brahmasukha, means spiritual life. So this is the instruction. Life is not meant for, eating, mating, sleeping, defending like animals. The nivritti marga should be followed. Pravritti marga should be left aside. That's a transition stage. You have been through various species of life already and done all that. In the human form of life, you understand, I must control these pushings that are coming from the past, and I must change course and be in nivritta marga. I must perform some austerity and penance. So these austerities and penance are very important. Say you're fasting from Ekadashi, on Ekadashi. Say you want to do Nirjala during Janmashtami, Nirjala Ekadashi to Gauranga Mahaprabhu's birthday, Gaurapurnima, and etc., etc. That's a good thing. That's a good thing to do. To refrain yourself, restrain yourself is what makes you a human being. Otherwise, you're just an animal. So the modern call for, do what you like to do, and empowerment of women in the wrong direction, and telling people that you are free, we don't interfere, and everybody has the freedom to do so. This is not really freedom. This is, you're making them free to become bondaged further under the grips of Maya. So this is not really, like you can't give a freedom to a small child. The mother is always behind the child, because he will go run here, run there, put the hand inside the fridge, inside the sockets, inside this. He doesn't know anything about the world. He doesn't know what is what. It's not the time for him to be given freedom at all. He'll ruin himself. He'll actually ruin himself. He'll electrocute himself. He will actually go and put his hand into the fire. He will, dump some. You can't give him free. He'll run into the road and crash himself somewhere. Because he doesn't know. He doesn't know. So when people don't know what is life, who am I, giving them freedom is actually asking them to go die. Go die. Do what you want and you will die. Because you don't know what to do. Giving freedom to people who are not civilized, who are not educated properly, who are not trained properly, who are not cultured properly, the result is a society filled with people who are clamoring for freedom and doing all sorts of things possible. Anything and everything possible. And claiming that to be freedom. So sometimes when people give so-called empowerment, so-called freedom, they should know whether it is proper. It's responsible. Giving of freedom is important. People who are responsible, to them you can give freedom. Responsibility and freedom go together. It's if a person is civilized, trained, he knows how to execute the values and that have been taught to him, he should be given freedom. He knows. He knows how to judge. So here and there he may make a little decision, but ultimately he knows. He knows how to steer it across and make it straight. That's very important for us. So here is an instruction. King Prachina Bari, the father, is giving instruction. Go, do tapasya. So that you can get married and you can produce good progeny and you can populate the world and do your own Krishna consciousness glorification and advancement. This is the goal of life. Look at the father teaching the children, this is what you should do. This is a very important thing to learn. The father should actually train the child how to perform austerities, how to actually discipline himself, how to be on track. And that training will come in a huge way, very useful to him in later life. That will be what makes him a successful person. So actually education starts at home. It starts at the most powerful level of influence, the parents. To outsource the whole education thing to a university, to a school, and think that they will do the job and you don't have to do the thing is the biggest mistake. So people think that he's studying outside. No, you have a great responsibility to take part in education. You should worry about what he's learning outside. What are they teaching him? What's the goal of life? Is he getting that? That's your duty as a parent. And if you did not do that, then you have actually led your child to go free and get stuck in the world of Maya, under the grips of Maya, and completely screw himself up. So that responsibility, Prabhupada took that responsibility in telling his disciples, don't go and get stuck. The world of Maya is very tough. He taught, he educated, he wrote books, he himself showed how to do it. And they came and asked questions, he answered. And he empowered them to preach, empowered them to understand what is Maya and act accordingly with self-responsibility towards ourselves. Empowerment and freedom doesn't mean that you give him empowerment to kill himself. Freedom means you make him responsible for his own actions, make him understand this is how the world operates. Give him knowledge, give him education, say, go now act according to this. And if you did not act according to this, you'll ruin yourself. And you can't blame anybody. You can blame only yourself. That's the way education should be. Empowering people to perform the activity of self-realization, take responsibility for their life, and move ahead and achieve the goal of life. I like the model that Prabhupada had. He did not too much get down to the lower levels and interfere in everything, but he gave very clearly instructions. You do, you don't do, you don't get it. And you can see, I didn't do, so I didn't get it. I should have done this like this, I would have got it. That much brains people have naturally. So you can see the Pracetas executing their father's word, which they have full faith in because he is a very good king, the follower of Vedic system of instructions. And they take it because they're young and they need instructions. And when they hear the father's instructions, follow it strictly, they're able to connect with the Supreme Lord and get the Lord's blessings. So this is an important thing. Austerity, instruction for austerity, and training and giving them importance about why it should be done and what's the knowledge about it. And the output of such people in terms of austerity is that if they do it nicely, they can actually meet with the Supreme Lord and get his blessings. And then after that, also if they continue to perform in order to purify themselves, they actually do very good and they achieve the goal of life. Right? This is what is the Krishna consciousness movement. We are asking people to chant Hare Krishna. That's a little austerity sometimes. But some austerity, some penance, some discipline is going to do a lot of good to you initially. And so the more you get the taste of it, the more you like to be disciplined. Discipline is something that you will like to be with. It becomes a part of yourself because it gives you great understanding of the self. It gives control over yourself and your mind and your senses and everything. All these things are part of the discipline and austerity process. So you'll see that the Pracetas, what I said, I told you that there is similar history like the Dhruva Maharaj's pastime. Dhruva Maharaj saw the Supreme Lord, came back completely purified and became the king. But then because his brother Uttama went to the forest for fighting and some yakshas attacked or something, he really got in the case of the yakshas. So much so that Swayambhu Manu had to tell, come, stop it. What are you doing? Killing all of them unnecessarily. And he had to come and stop it. So it can happen even to somebody called Dhruva, who has seen the Lord and waiting to get purified. And is supposed to go to Dhruva Loka and rule. and then go back to Godhead after that. These are all the wonderful instructions given by the Lord, and this is what is going to happen to him. Right? Similarly, you will see the Pracetas here, after they come out purified, they'll burn up all the trees around because there's a whole lot of them grown up and nobody is addressing it, attending to it. They get angry and burn it up. And then they come and soothed and said, don't do this. It's not correct. And they were given Marichi, the daughter of the forest, as their wife, because this is exactly what they did the tapasya for. And from them, they become very peacefully situated. Yavatte mayaya sprishta brahmandeha karmabi tavat bhavat prasanganam sangasyano bhave bhave. This is their prayer. Their prayer is, my Lord, we will not be able to immediately purify ourselves and go back to Godhead, it looks like. But as long as we remain in this world and take lifetimes, please make sure that we always get the association of your devotees. This is their prayer. So the Pracetas prayer and the happenings with the Pracetas and their amazing, darshan of the Supreme Lord coming on Garuda. And it sounds very different that under the water they perform austerities. How is it that they do that? Although they are humans. We heard earlier Shaubhari Muni also performing austerities under the water. So you'll hear this repeatedly, many people performing austerities under the water. And the Lord came and gave them darshan. And they had a view because they were worshipping and meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so much controlled and so much focused in their worship that the Lord appeared. And he gave them all the benedictions necessary. Similarly, for Shaubhari Muni, not very similar actually, Shaubhari Muni performed a different type of austerity. He did not maybe meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. So his so-called austerity landed up in him opening his eyes and seeing two fishes copulating. And then he got very interested in sex life, and sex desire got aroused in him. So much so that he half did his austerity and came out with all this mangled mass of weeds and all sorts of things and long fingernails and everything. It looks so ugly. And he went all the way to the king and said, I want to marry, arrange for me. And, the daughter's King Mandata. There's a whole story about it. And then he gets married, and he gets married to all the 50 daughters he has got because he becomes so handsome looking because of his austerities and penances. And then after marrying all of them and enjoying like nothing, he recollects that, my gosh, I got fooled by two fishes copulating and my entire austerity stopped, and I'm here with 50 females and I've got married, and whatever happened to me? So he is, completely, I got swept away by Maya. But you can see the Pracetas are in a group, each brother helping himself and others also, his brothers. And they all together have focused on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead has appeared. And one of the things the Lord tells them is, I am very pleased with the cooperation amongst all of you. That you have done Sankirtan. Bahubir militva kirtayante sankirtana muchyate. That is not an individual enterprise, spiritual life alone. That I alone will go back to God. I care to hoots for the people around me, my brothers, my siblings, my other people in the ashram or anybody else. Let them go to hell. I don't care. I'm just going. That's type of yogis go to the Himalayas alone and make it, and then thumb your nose at everybody else and say, you guys didn't make it. Competition, I went ahead. That's not the mood in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan. The mood of the Pracetas is very wonderful. It's Sankirtan mode. Of course, somebody would say it's all because they're all blood relations, they're all brothers and all that. Well, Prabhupada also initiated the whole thing. We are brothers. Mamaivam sa jivaloke jivabhuta sanatana. We are all brothers. We are all siblings of the Supreme Lord, connected with the Supreme Lord. So if we help each other in Krishna consciousness and move together back to Godhead, it's very pleasing to Lord Chaitanya. So imagine not only our family members, but we have a whole community of devotees. Let's say for here in Coimbatore, the Kovai Chandra community. Would we not like everybody to go back to Godhead together? Like the Prachetas are getting darshan of the Lord together and getting blessings. Would we not like every single one of them associated here with Krishna consciousness, performing service, taking the instructions of Prabhupada seriously? Would we not like all of them and their aspirations to become pure devotee go back to had it met with? Definitely. And if we think for the sake of everybody else, and if we think as a big community of people, a big family, all belonging to Krishna, is equally concerned about this person, that person, and a highly situated devotee or a lowly situated devotee, all part of my family, and everybody should be helped to push up in Krishna consciousness, that will please. This is Sankirtan mood. Sankirtan does not only mean picking up all the instruments and banging it and then thinking that we all performed in unison. Sankirtan means very nicely, pleasingly having the instruments, played so that it's pleasing to the deities of the Lord. For your pleasure we are doing, not for our own rajasic pleasure of beating the kartals or beating the drum or jumping and dancing, irrespective of the deities or anything. No, we are completely connected up with the Supreme Lord. And it is pleasing to him if I do something and bring the others inside into the fold of the family. And if everybody is facilitated to become Krishna conscious, that is the thinking with which Prabhupada went to America. How to get the whole world Krishna conscious. How to make one family all over the world with Krishna in the center. What an amazing vision. And he has initiated it. So each one of us don't have to think like that and do it. You can think about how to do it within our local community and feel and think for others, think for the community, think for the society's members, and bring new people into the society, grow it. And if you think and worry about it, that itself is very purifying. Nachatasman manisheshu kaschin me priyakritamaha bhavita nachame tasmat anya priyataro bhuvi. This is very important for us to know. In the mood of the Prachetas, they all stuck together. They didn't say, I alone want to get it. And, forget all the rest of them. The eldest son did not say that, forget all the rest, I'll do. I'm the one who should get the first mercy. They were so cooperative among themselves, helping each other and saying that all of us should equally be qualified to get the association of the Lord. That quality pleased Krishna very much. So this instance of the Prachetas teaches us a lot of things in Krishna consciousness. And we should keep these instructions in the mind. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually modeled the same thing. This is like Vrindavan. The atmosphere is like Vrindavan. The relationships are like Vrindavan. Krishna is in the center. And everybody is related and serving Krishna, and everybody is helping each other to serve Krishna. So that's the type of thing we are trying to start here in Kovai Chandra community. That there'll be Radha, Krishna, Jagannath, Balaram, Subhadra, Shishi, Gaur, Nitai, and Ashwinadev. And we all offer our love, our respect, our service to the deities, and we help each other to do that. Sri Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra Maiki, and we get that strength to do that. And in this way, we will all go back to God together. This is Sankirtan movement. It does not mean that some of us alone will go back. We should be worried about everybody, and we should request Krishna for blessings on everybody, and everybody should go back to Godhead together, like Ayodhya, the whole of Ayodhya went back to Godhead. Because Lord Ramachandra thought it should happen. And he had similarly given mercy to everybody, right? So that is something that we can learn from the shloka. Point number 1, austerities to be performed before one is conceiving a child, purifying himself. Then the whole responsibility of parents in educating their children and making them follow their orders. The way Prachina Bari is giving them orders and they're following because they're educated and cultured. And the responsibility of actually performing together amongst ourselves so that we can attract the attention of the Lord. These are some high points that we discussed today. I think you may ask questions if you have on the chat or otherwise. Om Tat Sat, Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki. If you have any questions, we can try to address them. Whose question is this, please? Sundara Murari Das. Discipline, austerity versus sentiment for Lord and attachment towards devotees. For sadhaka, what is more important, discipline or sentiments? Both are important. We are personalities, so we will have some emotion and sentiments. It's not wrong. And we want to go back to Krishna and we are sadhakas, so discipline is very important. Both are important. It's not that you should do one and give up the other. So rather, I think your question is about balancing these things. Yes, we need to draw a line where I will compromise on my discipline. Will I? Do I have to? Yes, maybe sometimes in a severe emergency, somebody died or somebody, this thing, you cannot go around saying, I have to chant my japa, I'm not coming to see my father in the hospital, he's died. It's okay, you guys go, I finish my rounds and I come in the evening for the funeral. That's very bad. I mean, that is like carrying it a little too far. It makes you very hard-hearted. So you should know that where to act, how to act in a social situation. You don't become suddenly a sannyasi inside a family. All these things people do, sometimes they don't understand. They take extreme measures and steps, and sometimes people get a wrong idea, a completely wrong idea of you guys. You guys are hard-hearted. You guys are, don't care about anything. Many people think many things. It's because we don't know where to draw the line. Life is not about 1 and 0. I said this before. It's not about black and white. There are lots of gray stuff. And especially for grahasthas, you have to wade a lot through the gray area. I think it is grahasthas instead of grahasthas, grahasthas. Because you need to make a life of, you need to make some compromises here and there. But if you don't forget the focus, you will always come back and lie. I heard one example nicely that I may have repeated this earlier, that when a person is driving a chariot, it's not that the horses go straight like a machine of a car. So you have roads just like this and you keep on that, and the driver is like this, or you have automated cars now, Tesla and driverless cars, and they follow a path. When you have a horse pulling your chariot, it's not a mechanical thing. And the horse is running and actually laboring. So quite often it seems the horse goes off like this, and then the driver brings it to the center, goes off a little to the right and then left and right and left. But on an average, he's going straight. On an average, he reaches the destination. Why? Because of the driver pulling it this way, and keeping it straight. So life is like that. It's not a straight thing. It'll be meandering a little bit, but overall you'll reach your destination. So when I say draw a line, does not mean very rigid, strict line. But if you know where you're going, and if you know that you have to reach your destination, and if you're hitched up to that, what is that shloka that said, Om Tad Vishnuhu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Surayah Diviva Chakshur Atatam Tat Vipraso Vipinyavo Jagrivagum Sasamindate Vishnuryat Paramam Padam. My destination is Vishnu's lotus feet. I know that it's fixed. but somehow I have to travel there. There may be this and that. Situations are not the same. That will happen, this will happen. But as long as you keep fixed on the goal of life, everything else can be handled. Okay? So understand that discipline is important. At the same time, we should be very paka about discipline. But you have to adjust it a little bit without compromising the main content of the discipline. Something on the periphery sometimes needs to be compromised, especially if you're a grahastha. In the ashram, we have more strict, more firm lines, more darker lines, more straight lines. But in a grahastha life, you may have to have a meandering line which will overall be straight. I hope you understand how to adjust that. Okay? Sundara Murari Prabhu. Kumar Swami Santi. Kindly enlighten us on the statement, when a man is fully conscious of his relationship with Krishna, he is actually a liberated soul, although he may be in the material tabernacle. Yeah. I would like you to, I like to draw your attention to when a man is fully conscious of his relationship with Krishna. That's called Krishna consciousness. Being fully conscious of a relationship with Krishna is called Krishna consciousness. He's actually a liberated soul. And although he may be in the material tabernacle, I'll give you a very famous example of Prabhupada, which you may have heard. He is inside the material body, but he is liberated. It's called Jivan Mukta, because he's already associated with the Lord, absorbed in the Lord. That's what happened to Parikshit Maharaj after he heard 7 days Shukadeva Goswami. In the end, Shukadeva Goswami told him, give up your animal-like mentality of thinking, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. You cannot die. You're a spirit soul, right? So don't be afraid of death because that some shringy small boy cursed you of death. How can you die? You can only die if you don't take up Krishna consciousness. If you spend your life uselessly without achieving the goal of life, then you will die. But since you're hearing 24/7, everything, without even drinking water, you're so absorbed, you will become so absorbed that you will not even know you're dying. That's what happened to Parikshit Maharaj. He said in the end, let that serpent or whatever is supposed to come and bite me, let him come and bite. As far as I'm concerned, I am completely absorbed in Krishna. So it's mentioned that the serpent became useless in terms of performing its role of, biting Parikshit and making him die. It really had no effect. Really had no effect. So he was already liberated before the serpent came and bit him. In fact, he was already liberated, what to speak of dying. The external aspect of the dying became redundant when the snake came and bit him. So what? You can bite my body. I am already disconnected from my body. That's the meaning of saying that if you take a dry coconut, in Kerala, you'll get that on the seashore floating around. If you can shake it and see inside, the copra will be separated from the coconut. It will be kada kada kada, sound will come. It's right inside there, the coconut. But it is separated from the shell. It is inside, but it is not attached to the shell. Same way, a liberated soul is inside his body, but he is not in the bodily concept of life at all. He is completely absorbed in his service to Krishna. Right? So that's the meaning of saying, when a person's relationship is established in full Krishna consciousness, then nothing in the world matters, nothing in the world will affect him, and no rules and regulations are applicable to him because he's out of the body, although he's in the body. Okay? I hope you have got that, Kumar Swami Shanti. Any other question or comment? If not, Om Tat Sat. Hope to see you tomorrow morning.